Trees, power lines down, and that was there in southeast Memphis. There we go. So that's going to be at Getwell Road and Shelby Drive. You see it was about 13 or 14 power poles that were snapped and bent over due to the high wind gusts that we saw in that area from the thunderstorm that we saw. At one point, we had about 8,000 customers without power in southeast Memphis, but a lot of those outages have been repaired as they're out there kind of getting the power poles cleaned up. Now, it seems like this damage from yesterday was a result of a downburst. Now, we've seen a couple of these. We saw one in South Haven on Sunday that caused some damage along State Line Road near Interstate 55. But I do think what we saw yesterday in southeast Memphis was also a downburst. Now, we've talked about this a little bit in the past week, but just to kind of explain it to you, what happens is, of course, to get a thunderstorm to grow, it has to rise up. So winds are actually going upward inside the thunderstorm, and that helps to build the thunderstorm up. If you've ever seen in the summertime, those summertime clouds kind of bubble straight up and build that thundercloud. That's because there's rising motion within the storm. Well, what happens is what comes up must eventually come down. And as the storm starts to collapse, all of that wind that's built up eventually comes downward, and that causes all the wind to rush straight down out of the storm, and then it hits the ground and spreads out. So what happens is, over a really small area, we can get really high wind gusts of 50 to 60 miles an hour. Now, these are really hard to predict because you don't really see them on radar until they happen, until the wind is already fanning out at the surface. But again, what we are seeing likely in some of these summer storms is a downburst. It's really typical in those small summertime cells because they build up so quickly and then they come down so quickly. So this is probably what happened there in southeast Memphis yesterday that took down those power poles, and what happened in South Haven on Sunday with that little thunderstorm. These downbursts can be fierce. They can create a really small area of wind, 50 to 60 miles an hour. And as we've seen, that can cause damage. It was not a tornado. It does not take a tornado to cause damage. We can see wind that can do just as much damage as a tornado. And these summertime storms, they can be fierce. So just keep that in mind in the summer. When you get those heavy thunderstorms, high winds are always a concern. It's usually not over a large area, but we can still see winds that are pretty fierce in a small area.